Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday, working towards a weekend. We're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and we are fired up. You are here. Luke Johnson here in 15 minutes. Saints have wrapped up the media portion of optional organized team activities, and so we'll talk to Luke about what he saw during that. Next up is mandatory minicamp, and we'll get a little bit of preview of that from Luke as well coming up. Jay Johnson sat down with Michael Cauble of WBRZ Channel 2. It was a great conversation. I highly recommend you check that out on YouTube on the WBRZ Sports page. It's about 25 minutes or so, pretty easily digestible, and they hit on a lot of topics. We'll discuss a little bit of that coming up at 1:30. College World Series cranks up tomorrow. It's Media Day at Charles Schwab Field. I always get caught between TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab because it has been both. Charles Schwab Field, Media Day going on today, so we'll have a thought on that in the second hour. And plenty to do over the next couple of hours, so lock us in. Let's crank it up the way we do every day.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
Sometimes summer content just shows up and you don't even know what's coming. I had no idea yesterday the SEC was going to fire off a press release at like 6 o'clock p.m. with some football game time windows, but they did. We threw them up at louisianasports.net, and I want to talk about a little bit of them because we've got an idea of when LSU is playing quite a few of their games now. Of course, there are some that are going to be flexed. A lot of the big-time matchups are going to be flexed, but we now know kickoff times for a number of LSU's games, so I'll give you the ones that we know for sure. LSU is going to play Clemson at 6:30 p.m. on ABC in Tiger Stadium to open the season. We already had that information. Week 2, Louisiana Tech will be here, SEC Network Plus. That will also be a 6:30 kickoff. We already knew that one. Week 3, ABC's not missing that one. That's in Oxford, Mississippi. LSU and Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin headed back to Oxford. That's going to be the 6:30 ABC game as well. That's the primetime game. That's what they want, LSU Clemson. They want LSU Ole Miss in that window. Now, you are flexing LSU and Texas A&M, which is after Ole Miss. That's in Tiger Stadium. That's probably going to be a night game. But if LSU were to stumble out of the blocks and lose to Clemson and Ole Miss, maybe they would flex that to a different time slot. But at this point, LSU and A&M are flexed. LSU and McNeese, after that game, 6:45, streaming on SEC Network Plus. No big deal there as we get into October. We found out kickoff between LSU and Kentucky in Lexington on October the 10th will be an evening or /night kickoff between 5 and 7 Central Time in Lexington. The following week, Mississippi State is back in Tiger Stadium for the first time since 2022. You realize it's 2026. Mississippi State has not been here since 2022. And that game will kick off at either 11 o'clock or noon in Tiger Stadium. So an early kickoff at home, which is rare for LSU. The following week, LSU will head to the Plains of Auburn. Tigers haven't been to Auburn in a minute either. And LSU and Auburn will play in the morning game. That'll be right after game day at 11 o'clock on either ABC or ESPN. They have flexed the 3 big games in November. Alabama and Texas in Tiger Stadium and at Tennessee. Those games are all flexed. Never know when they're going to play those, but I would imagine LSU, Alabama, and LSU, Texas in Tiger Stadium, pretty good chance to be night games. And then the final game of the regular season is in November on the 28th, LSU and Arkansas. From up in Fayetteville, that game will be at either 11 o'clock or noon up in Arkansas. So the games we found out yesterday were road games against Kentucky, Auburn, and Arkansas, as well as the home game against Mississippi State. And 3 of the 4 that we found out yesterday are early kickoffs. Now, I'll give you my thoughts on that. LSU playing Mississippi State at 11 o'clock or noon, I don't like that for y'all. There's a real chance on October the 17th at 11 o'clock or noon, we've got phenomenal weather in Baton Rouge. That's, you never know, but there's a chance we got really good weather. And it's great for me because I'm on the air at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., and I can go and eat dinner with my family at 5:45, 6 o'clock when I get done with all of my work responsibilities. But I don't want to compromise those for y'all. I know that y'all cherish those 5, 6, 7, 8 home games, whatever it is in that given year, and you want as many night games as possible. You're not going to get one with Mississippi State. My strong inclination is you're going to get night games for Clemson. You're going to get a night game for Louisiana Tech. I know you've got night for Clemson, Louisiana Tech, and McNeese. I think you'll get one for Texas A&M. I think you'll get one for Alabama, and I think you'll get one for Texas. I think you'll have 6 night games next year, but you will have Mississippi State in the early window. I'll tell you this. I kind of like playing Auburn at 11 o'clock in the morning on the Plains. I kind of like it. You're getting an Auburn team there in late October. You got a lot of turnover on that Auburn staff. You got a lot of turnover on that Auburn roster. That stadium, though, y'all realize this. I mean, I think you're watching enough Auburn football over the last few years. They haven't been good. The whole Freeze era, they were bad. But they don't care. That place, I would put Auburn and Texas A&M amongst the 2 most loyal fan bases. I would throw South Carolina in there as well. They show up no matter what. And they're going to be there. So I would rather play Auburn at 11 o'clock in the morning than 7 o'clock at night. And I told y'all back on, I think it was Monday, when we were talking about the power rankings that ESPN had and how LSU's road games were actually significantly against the bottom of the conference as ESPN projects it. And those are the games you're going to have to take care of business in. You can't go to Kentucky and lose. You don't need to go to Auburn and lose. You got to go to Fayetteville and win. You got to win these road games on your schedule. And to have one at 11 o'clock in the morning, I think is a good thing. And then with Arkansas, that's a game that's going to be played on November the 28th. At 11 o'clock in the morning or noon, you've at least got the sunlight up there. And look, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I've seen LSU teams go up there in really cold weather and struggle. I mean, I'm looking at the Leonard Fournette team in 2015. They went up there in Brett Bielema's first ever SEC win, and it was like 27 degrees, and LSU just didn't even score. It was just it was awful. And LSU wasn't very good up there. In the game, Harold Perkins wrecked on his own. Like, LSU didn't play very well offensively in that game in Fayetteville. Like, it gets chilly up there. I'll take that game at noon as well, as opposed to playing that game at 7 o'clock at night when the sun's already gone down and it's really cold in Fayetteville. It still might be cold at noon or at 11 o'clock in the morning. But I'll take some sunlight as LSU's playing in that game. Plus, you may have a compromised crowd there. It's hunting season. It's Arkansas. They're probably not going to have a great season. It's at the end of the year. Maybe you get a break there. So those are the early kickoffs. And I think for LSU, they're pretty favorable. You should be able to handle Mississippi State no matter what time you play at home. And I'd rather play Auburn and Arkansas at 11 o'clock in the morning or noon than I would at 7 o'clock for a couple of different reasons, but I kind of feel that way. Now, Kentucky, you're playing at night. That's a game that you're going to see in Lexington at night. And that's an interesting pull by the SEC to put that game at night. Now, I would imagine that's not going to be a game that's on ABC or maybe ESPN. That game screams SEC Network to me. But there's a lot of people that feel pretty good about the hire that Kentucky has made. They think that they're going to be a little bit more exciting. Now, all the people in Baton Rouge, all of you, this is one of those moments where I can hear y'all talking to your radio. And you're going, well, Joe Sloan's calling the plays. They're going to stink. Well, he's the offensive coordinator, but I think we're all pretty well aware that Will Stein, coming in from Oregon, where he scored a bajillion points, is probably going to be running the offense in Lexington as the head coach. I don't think Joe Sloan is going to take the 2025 LSU offense and just straight up implement it in Lexington. That would be nice from a production standpoint because it wasn't very good. But Joe Sloan's there to coach quarterbacks like he did when Mike Denbrock was here and not to be the czar of the offense. So I don't necessarily see it exactly the way that you do. I understand where you're coming from. LSU's offense was not very good last year. They couldn't run the ball worth the crap the last 2 years. I get it. But I don't think Joe Sloan is going to be in complete control up there. I think Will Stein is going to be doing a lot of button pushing there. So it's not earth-shattering news that we got yesterday. I don't think it's season-defining news that we got yesterday. But it is interesting. And look, I'm just going to give you my perspective on it. When they go away from home, when they're on the road, and they play at 11 o'clock or noon, I like it. I like it for two reasons. One, the crowd's not as good. Two, the work schedule. And I know that y'all don't care about that at all, but like, I'm here. Like, it is my work schedule, and I would much rather start at 9 o'clock a.m. and be done at 4:30 than I would start at 6 and be done at 2 in the morning. And that's what I do a lot of football weekends. And also full disclosure, which y'all really don't care about. My wife and I are going on a trip in the fall for the bye week, and we're taking a long flight to Europe. And it's the day after the Auburn game. So the fact that the Auburn game is at 11 o'clock in the morning and I can come home and pack and get in bed as opposed to I'm not exaggerating. I oftentimes go to bed at 2:15, 2:30 in the morning in football season. That would stink to go to bed at 2:15 in the morning, then wake up and go to the airport and fly to Europe. So I realize that's some first world problems we're talking about here, but just that's something I'm looking forward to. So the game times have been announced. Again, I believe these flex games, A&M, Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, these games I think are going to be at night. It would be surprising to me if they were not, but we don't have that information yet. But it's very clear that the Southeastern Conference and ESPN got together, looked at the schedule, and wanted to tread carefully on games that they feel like could be blockbusters. And let's be candid, LSU, Mississippi State, LSU, Kentucky, LSU, Arkansas, probably not going to be blockbusters. So they were comfortable slotting those in. LSU, Bama, LSU, Texas, LSU, Tennessee, LSU, A&M could be monster games. So those games probably going to be at night and will be flexed until a later date. But if you want to read those game times and see them all kind of laid out in front of you, we've got the story up at louisianasports.net. So appreciate y'all for making that part of your day each and every day. It's been awesome to see that site grow, and we'll keep it rolling there. That's a little look at LSU football here on this Thursday, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We'll step aside. Luke Johnson talking St. Toast TAs, and we'll talk about what Jay Johnson had to say with Michael Cauble coming up in 20 minutes. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
GoTro's Outdoor Power. GoTrosOnline.com is the website, but stop on by. They've got amazing deals going on in the month of June on their Raptor series. And if you're thinking, well, how much do they actually have in stock in terms of Raptors? Well, I'll tell you, it's the largest inventory in the state, so we can start with that. They've been the Hustler Dealer of the Year 2 of the last 3 years right here in South Louisiana. You can find them on Airline Highway in Baton Rouge. You can certainly find them over in Gonzales. And if you stop on by in the month of June, you can get some unbelievable savings. Now, the best is kind of yet to come. The best is coming up Father's Day week, which is a week from now. But right now, $200 off their Raptor series, $500 off their Fast Track series, and then $1,500 off Hustler commercial mowers as well. June 15th through the 20th, you can get those discounted prices as well as no sales tax on the in-stock units. So go by and see them, Airline Highway in Baton Rouge, in Gonzales. You can check them out online at GoTrosOnline.com. That's GoTros Outdoor Power.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Chugging along here, working towards the weekend. Let's talk some Saints. Luke Johnson covers the black and gold for NOLA.com and The Advocate with us on Thursdays. Joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how are you?
Doing great, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
It's our pleasure. We were joking and kind of chuckling on the show yesterday with Kellen Moore's press conference from yesterday. How difficult is it to get him to say anything?
Well, I mean, like, next to impossible, right? unless you're like this, just like football play calling junkie who's gonna like get really into detail on stuff and kind of light a spark in his like football brain. Basically everything is awesome. Everybody's doing great. We love having everybody around. And that's about what you're going to get out of him. I will say, though, to Kellen's credit, he is A, very pleasant to deal with, and B, like, he's not going to like hide stuff. So like if somebody's dealing with an injury, he's not going to like saying it, but he's going to be like, yeah, he's got a hamstring or whatever the case is. So I am at least grateful for that side of things. But like, I will not be quoting Kellen Moore extensively when I'm working on any really good human interest features. I'll tell you that right now.
No question about that. I'm curious, as when you look at this roster, do you feel like they're about done? Do you feel like there's something they need to do? We're now reaching the point where we're getting closer to reporting for actual training camp, and the roster acquisition portion of the summer is in the rearview mirror. Like, what do you think?
I feel like the offense is in really good shape. I like their depth on the offensive line, which is like something that every team struggles with, but I think the Saints have good options pretty much everywhere, maybe with the exception of backup center. But I feel good about it. I like their pass-catching core. I like the fact they have 3 tight ends who are going to see the field. I like their running back room as it's currently constructed, and the same thing with quarterback room. I think the only thing to me, like, I think they could still use Cam Jordan back on this team, and I think they still need some to figure out what their depth is at the star position. I'm cool with them experimenting with Jonas Sanker there. Yeah, I'm interested to see what he looks like there, because it is very different from just the straight up, like, you know, even box safety, right? He's going to have some different responsibilities. But I mean, like yesterday, they ran full team out there for the first time since they got going with their summer program. And Jaden Price, who spent all of last year on the practice squad, who I don't think has ever played in an NFL game, was their number 2 nickel, their number 2 star, which is concerning to me, right? He might be a good player, but there's like literally nothing to go off of. I don't even think he played in a preseason game last year. If he did, it was minimal. So like, I kind of want to see him make a move there, because the guys they have are all outside corners, like Kool-Aid and Kinstry, Quincy Riley, even the guys they drafted, T.J. Hall and Lorenzo Styles. Those are outside corners. Martin Emerson, the free agent they signed, who I think is an intriguing player, is an outside corner. I think they could still use some help there, even if Sanker is a good player.
All right, let's talk about what you saw on the full team workout, specifically with Tyler Shuck yesterday. I was told the defense kind of controlled most of the action, but what did you see?
Yeah, actually, in full team, I thought Shuck looked pretty good. It was in 7-on-7 where they just couldn't find anything against that defense, and I think I'm still like very, very high on Shuck and what he can be in this offense. They were working without Chris Olave or Jordan Tyson yesterday. His top 2 options were Jalen Polk and Devon Vele, who I think are good secondary options. They're just, they're not like premier top flight receivers like the other 2 guys who you kind of hoping are in this offense. So it was just, it was 7-on-7, and there's no pass rush, and he was holding on to the ball forever. And yeah, I think he had 4 reps, and 3 of them were he's holding on to the ball for like 6-7 seconds. I'm not worried about that. It was up and down. He was really, really good the week before. And I do think though that, interestingly enough, the Saints did next to nothing on the defensive side of the ball this year, outside of drafting Christian Miller, who we haven't seen yet, and signing Caden Ellis to replace Demario Davis, who left in free agency. Other than that, it's pretty much the same unit.
Yeah.
And I think they've looked pretty good so far. They looked pretty good last year, especially toward the end of the season. So I don't know. I was a little worried about that coming into this summer, because again, they did almost nothing. But that side of the ball is still looking, I think, pretty decent.
We talked about this a little bit last week, but just to reiterate, can you compare Shuck's rookie minicamp and then OTAs last year to what you saw the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's the 7-on-7 period notwithstanding yesterday. I think he's more decisive, and this is just as a player, right? More decisive, more willing to kind of open it up, take shots downfield. Like we saw it early last year. It seemed like he was just trying not to make a mistake, right? And you could see the talent at times, but like I think this year it's been more consistent, and everything's been more on time, and he just looks like a confident player. And that's not even getting into all the other stuff, which I think is the really important stuff. Is like everybody here believes in him. Like last year is like, you just don't know who the guy is going to be. And there's no real opportunity for somebody at this stage of the season to kind of take charge. And I think that is so different this time around. I mean, guys are bringing it up unprompted, not even asking about Tyler Shuck, and they're bringing him up and the way he's getting everybody together. I think that's really important. Because if you're going to succeed in this league, like it is like you have to have the physical attributes, right? You have to be able to get the ball out. You have to be big and strong and fast and throw the ball hard and far. But like, there's guys who have all that who are not good quarterbacks because they don't have it like between the ears. And I think Tyler Shuck has that. And that's a really elusive quality, and that's something that should be breeding optimism around here, and I think it is.
Luke Johnson's our guest. You can follow him on Twitter at @LukeJohnson, covering the Saints for the NOLA.com and the Advocate. Is the only significant health issue at this point Kendre Miller? Is there something else that I'm missing there where they're trying to get somebody back to the field?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of guys who've been like just sitting out of practice. Guys who were expecting to contribute, right? Like I didn't see Oscar Delp do any like really competitive stuff throughout this time. Jordan Tyson's been held out. Christian Miller's been held out. Chris Olave hasn't done anything in OTAs the last 2 weeks. And yesterday, Kellen Moore said that's kind of still related to the blood clot. But I do think that this, just as an organization, is very conservative medically. And they're going to have guys on treatment programs and maintenance plans and all that stuff, with the idea of getting into week one in one piece. So yeah, like all those guys missing, I'm not really concerned about them. I'm not concerned about Christian Miller missing time. Kendre Miller is the only one who I can think of on this team right now who would be looking at like starting the training camp on the PUP. Obviously that can change, but like that's kind of where things stand right now.
Do you think he's going to make the roster for the season?
God, I don't know, man. Like I'm having a hard time seeing it. Obviously, like if Alvin Kamara, if they decide to move on from him because they're still like being non-committal about his 2026 status with the team, then that greatly improves Kendre Miller's chances. But like, it's just hard to count on him, right? And it's not even like a dig against Kendre Miller. It's just I don't think he's played more than 6 games in a professional season in 3 seasons. So it's just like he could make the roster, but like if he does, I think it says like, hey, we have this extra roster spot. We want to keep him because we still believe in his potential. But like, hard to go into a season counting on him to play even half the season because he's never done it.
That's a big strike against you, and the clock's running out on his time in New Orleans if it doesn't change in a hurry. Luke, we appreciate the time. We'll be reading. Thanks, man.
Yep, my pleasure, man.
He is Luke Johnson with NOLA.com and The Advocate, covering the black and gold. If you're looking for our Saints content, you can always find it. LouisianaSports.net. Ross Jackson does an awesome job, and my stuff at Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your podcast, of course, on YouTube as well. It reminds you about Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. It is hurricane season. Like right now, it is June. It is hurricane season, and we're hopeful that it's another quiet one, but you know that can't last forever. We've had some good ones in a row. I hope there's 10 more to follow, but we know the odds this part of the world. So if you want to give yourself the peace of mind, whether it's at home or at your business, to make sure the power never goes out on you, get that Generac home standby generator installed by the people at Boudreaux's Electrical Services soon. 985-397-1562 is the phone number. 985-397-1562. You can also reach out to Gonzales location, 225-300-9389. It's a local option for that Generac home standby generator. And when it's local, you get the customer service you're looking for. You need that installation done, local team comes out and does it. You need maintenance done, local team comes out and does it. They monitor your generator 24/7 because the last thing you want to do is spend money on a generator, feel like it's going to be ready to roll, and then a storm blows through and you didn't know there was a mechanical issue. Now your generator doesn't work. Well, that can't happen. And it won't at Boudreaux's Electrical because they're monitoring things and can send a local team out to repair things if there is an issue. That's the local difference. It's Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Find them online at boudreauxelectrical.com. Give them a call at 985-397-1562. We're chugging along here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Still plenty to do on this edition. In 30 minutes, I'm going to start talking a little bit about the College World Series. They are practicing and doing media day up at Charles Schwab Field right now in Omaha. I was talking to Musso down the hall. Kiddo's sick this morning again, so I had to take him into the doctor. And my wife came to me and she's like, can you take him to the doctor? And I checked my schedule on my phone. I clicked on the day on the calendar to make sure I didn't have anything. And boom, my 2 flights to Omaha popped up. They've been canceled for a couple weeks, obviously. But they're still there on the calendar as just canceled events. And I'd have been flying out 5:10 this morning was the departure time. So if you were on a 5:10 a.m. flight out of New Orleans to, I believe, Dallas is where I was headed first, I would have been there with you, but you went 9-21 in the SEC, so that didn't quite qualify you to get in the tournament to play for Omaha. But Jay Johnson spoke a lot about that with Michael Cobble of WBRZ, and in an interview this week. It's up on WBRZ's YouTube channel right now, and it goes a lot of different directions, and it's like 25 minutes, well worth your time. I listened to it on the way to work yesterday, and really enjoyed what Jay had to say. Some really interesting points that he made, and some things that you can draw from, and we'll talk about some of those, including those sound bites from Jay Johnson when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is the website. But go by and see him. Segan at Perkins at Swing Easy Golf Club here in Baton Rouge. You know, we were out there on Monday for that competition to qualify one of our listeners to be in their summer league. And Chris was one of the guys who qualified, and he was hitting some balls to warm up before we played the front nine at Pebble Beach on the simulator. And he was hitting some like low cuts that he wasn't happy with. And he wasn't sure why the ball wasn't exploding off the club face. And I showed him right there on the screen, right in front of his face, that the ball was coming off the heel of the club face. It's right there at the impact zone. And he was like, oh, stood a little bit further away from the golf ball, started striking it pure. It's that kind of feedback you can get working on your game with the technology at Swing Easy Golf Club. Of course, you can see your carry distance, you can see the trajectory of the ball, you can see the club head speed, you can see the ball speed as well. But that club face at impact is always really telling, especially for those of us that aren't scratch players or professional golfers. Sometimes we're missing on the same spot on the club, not sure why the ball's not carrying far enough. That's the kind of feedback you can get at Swing Easy Golf Club. So go work on your game there. It's on Segan at Perkins or online at SwingEasyGCBR.com. It's Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Shout out Sean Sagrera and the folks over at Sagrera Farms. I talked to Sean earlier today. He had some incredible news to share from the farm there at Sagrera Farms. I tell you all about the intramuscular fat score just about every week. That's how you judge what quality beef is. So if you're talking about on that scale, the IMF scale, if you're talking about 0 to 3, that's the bottom of the barrel. That's your select. You go 3 to 7, 8, that's when you're talking about choice. That's 60% of the beef out there. Prime starts at 8 or 9, right? Sean ultrasounded or had 20 cows ultrasounded on the farm this week. 19 of the 20 graded prime. And the average, keep in mind, prime where it starts is like 8 or 9. The average was 12.5. So you're talking about double prime in some cases. There were multiple 18s on the farm currently. There was a 19 on the farm currently. There are multiple 15s on the farm currently. Double the standard of prime USDA beef. And you've got it right up the road here outside of Baton Rouge. Give Sean a call if you want some of the best beef in the country in your freezer in short order. You call him at 225, obviously. He's right there in Baton Rouge. 719-1723. 225-719-1723. Give Sean a call. Say, hey, I'm looking for some beef. You can fill your freezer with a whole cow, a side, a quarter, and make sure that your summer grilling months are top-notch. That's what you get with Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. All right, let's talk about some LSU baseball. Michael Cauble did an awesome job interviewing Jay Johnson earlier this week. You can find that entire interview online on YouTube or on WBRZ's website. On YouTube, it's on WBRZ's page. You can look at sports and you'll see the interview there. It's actually the interview that Cauble was sitting down and doing with Jay Johnson. You can see this if you watch the video. When Bino Waters calls him and says, hey, we're coming to LSU, he gets that call in the interview. Now, it's not played. Jay's phone rings. He goes, I got to take this. He hops up, and Cauble goes to break. And then Jay comes back, and Cauble's like, oh, is that good news? And Jay's like, very good news. And they just keep going with the interview. So if you want to kick out of that, it's early in the interview. Go check that out. But I thought some of the sound bites were really good from Jay, and some of them were very long. But look, I'd rather hear Jay Johnson talk than me give my opinion. So let's hear Jay Johnson talk. We'll start with him talking about some of the flaws in the 2026 team, as well as what that meant to LSU's pitching.
You know, I think the the flaws of the team, like we just couldn't cover them up. When we didn't pitch well, we really, a defensive error would magnify that. Mm-hmm. And I think we can be better on that side of the ball in totality. Now, what I'm excited about is I think there is plenty of in-house pitcher talent that can and will perform better than they did in this season. And I'm really, really excited about that. I think we have a good pathway to that. I think it's taking each of them individually, the guys in that starter bucket with Kaysen, with William, with Cooper Moore, Marcos Paz. I mean, huge benefit getting him 4 SEC starts as a freshman. I don't know that that's happened anywhere at any school since I've been the coach here. Like Drew Beam, Tennessee is like the only guy I can think of that started significant games as a freshman. I think there's some real positives, and all of those guys are going to be better in the 2027 season than they were in the 2026. My job and goal is to support that group better with the type of defense that we played in 2025, which was the best defense in school history. Yeah. I think a lot of that is talent, and then maybe some adjustments in terms of how we develop the infielders, but I felt really good about what we've done over the past 3 years.
There's a lot to chew on there. Yes, they've got to play much better defense, and Jay Johnson's doing that in the transfer portal. You go get Dawson Park, who is a good defender. They're not going to go get guys in the transfer portal who cannot defend. And you went last year and you got 4 infielders out of the transfer portal, and none of the 4 were good on defense. Now, some of them profiled as really good bats and didn't turn out that way, but you knew when they came to LSU that they weren't great defenders. And that's a problem, and it's something he's not going to let happen again. He's not going to chase offense, chase power, and compromise significantly the defense. They've got to play better defense. Now, the other piece of that soundbite, and this is going to be something you hear from me in October, in November, in January, and starting in February. If this pitching staff stays relatively status quo from right now, and you realize that you're going to battle on SEC weekends with Kaysen Evans, William Schmidt, Cooper Moore, Marcos Paz, Reagan Ricken, and Landon Hood with a couple of freshmen, you're going to hear me be skeptical of that, because that wasn't good enough this past year. So you're going to have to bet on big-time improvement. That's kind of what Jay's saying there, that they're going to be better. They need to be a lot better. They need to be a lot better. If you're going to compete for a championship, you need to have starting pitchers that go routinely 6 2/3, 7 1/3, 8, 9 strikeouts, 2, 3 runs. And LSU just didn't get that from those guys this year. Evans gave up a lot of runs because he gave up a lot of walks. Schmidt didn't get deep into games. He didn't give a lot of runs. The ERA was okay. He didn't ever pitch into the 7th inning. Moore got hurt, but Paz got tagged if he wasn't against South Carolina. Riggin didn't get opportunity. He had some struggles in the midweek. And then Hood has been a relief guy in the West Coast Conference. Now, I believe in all those guys' stuff, but I would like to see one more starting pitcher added if possible. Problem is, like I talked about yesterday, you may not have enough money in the holster to make that happen after you go grab these 3 very high-profile guys. So that's one piece to the puzzle Jay Johnson's talking about. This is interesting and something that I didn't quite realize to the number, and I went and looked it up, but I'll let Jay Johnson talk about his biggest gripe with this team.
There's a lot of groundswell of things that went the opposite way that you want them to go. Mm-hmm. I think it's our job to cover up our team when those things come at you and come at us. And, the one that really digs at me is performance in close games. We had an unbelievable record in 1 and 2 run games for 4 years, and it was the opposite of that this year. And those usually come down to fundamentals, and those usually come down to execution. And, everything we build, on a day-to-day basis is about getting to that quality execution that's going to make the difference in those close games against the best teams in the country that creates the opportunity to take advantage of. And we didn't get to that this year.
And I went and looked it up. I mean, it stands to reason. You go 9 21 in the league, you're losing some close games, you're losing some blowout games, and they certainly did both of those. But LSU in the SEC this year played 7 games that were decided by 1 or 2 runs. 7 games decided by 1 or 2 runs in totality. They were 1 6. 1 6 in 1 and 2 run games in SEC play. For the season, they were 4 9. And yeah, that's a hallmark of a team that's finding ways to lose. That's walking guys in late innings. That's not slamming the door on leads. That's coming back with a rally and coming up one swing short. They did that in Oxford once. That's a spot where a good bullpen and some quality offensive execution late in games flips that scoreboard, and LSU just didn't come up with it. And there's a lot of things that go into that, and it's not like you can't show up to practice on a Wednesday and go, okay, we're gonna work on winning close games today. Like, that's not a thing. You can work on bunting, you can work on infield defense, you can work on rundowns, you can work on elevating the ball in live BP to get sack flies. Like, you can work on the execution elements of the game that ultimately, more often than not, decide close games. But you can't work on winning close games. And they just didn't do it. Part of that's because the defense was bad. Part of that's because the bullpen couldn't find consistent answers. And part of that's because the offense struggled early in the season. Well, not early in the season, early in the SEC season. The offense wasn't good against Oklahoma, wasn't good against Texas A&M, wasn't good against Kentucky until the end of the series. They were bad in close games. And it's very, very difficult to go out there and become a great team if you can't win tight ball games. And LSU just simply did not win tight ball games in 2026. The shift here in the portal process has become very evident. And Jay Johnson talked about wanting to get defenders in the transfer portal.
Here, when you're talking about competing for a national championship, like the position players, you can only do that if they can make positive contribution on both sides of the ball. And I think that's where we really nailed the 25 team. And I think the 23 team was much better defensively than maybe it had gotten credit for, from behind the plate, in the infield, and in the outfield, how the pitchers fielded their position. So we're really looking for, moving forward, making sure that players can contribute on both sides of the ball. And I think, call it my own, survival instincts when you see like Ethan Fry going out the door as, what a player. He is not nearly thought of the way that he should be around here because of injuries, and took him a little while to crack the lineup, but we don't win the national championship without him playing the way that he did. Jared Jones, one of the best power hitters in the history of this program. I think he's third all time in home runs, and that's only playing 3 years. So I think maybe trying to catch up to some production that we were losing from them, maybe I got a little too focused on that. And then we lost a little bit of the identity that made that team so strong in 2025 was our ability to handle the baseball. And where it reared its head was, we were also going in a new route with the pitching where we were going guys that we really believe in and I really believe in, but it was their first time, going through as a starter. I mean, look at the scores in the NCAA tournament. Like, they are high, and the bats are hot, and players are stronger. So I actually look at some things like Kaysen and William and Cooper while he was pitching and Marcos did, and go like, hey man, there's something to build off there, and they can be a lot better, but they can't be the best they can be unless we support them, or cover them up by playing better defense.
There's two things on that, and we'll wrap this portion of the interview. We'll get to a little bit more of it in hour number 2. It's a sit down that Jay Johnson had with Michael Cauble on WBRC. They got 4 transfers offensively last year that could not play defense. Zach York's not a premium defender. Seth Dardo doesn't have a position. Braden Simpson doesn't have a position. Trent Caraway didn't help you offensively and is an okay third baseman. But you didn't get, Danny Dickinson can play defense. Chris Stanfield can play defense. Now, Braswell didn't help you offensively in year 2, but in year 1, he did help you offensively, and he, of course, can play defense. These are the transfers that LSU needs to add. And he talked about the 23 team playing pretty good defense. When you think about that team, Milazzo behind the plate, good defender. Cruz in center field, elite defender. Thompson was a nice shortstop for LSU. And then you put Dugas at second base, which is an easy position to play, and he did an okay job. But, yeah, you need to get guys that play defense, and Dawson Park can play defense. And, by the way, you did go get a bat yesterday in Bino Waters. But he is a corner outfielder and knows how to play that position. The guys you brought in last year were infielders, but weren't good ones. You got a guy that can play the outfield. So, yes, he is a bat, but he will help you defensively. The guys you brought in last year are not going to help you defensively. So that's a change that Jay Johnson made. The other piece to that puzzle is I'm not fully buying into the fact that the defense really let Kason Evans and William Schmidt down. Of course it did in some spots. They were a bad defensive team. But those guys walked too many guys, gave up too much hard hit contact, got behind in too many counts, didn't work deep enough into games, and that was not a huge reflection on the defense. There was a part of it that was defense. Those guys just didn't pitch to their capabilities. They can be better. They better be better. They can be better. And so there's certainly a change in philosophy, but there's not going to be a huge overhaul in the pitching staff based on what Jay Johnson's saying. So we'll see kind of how that manifests and plays out. That's some content from Michael Cauble, who sat down with Jay Johnson. Again, you can find that at WVRC's YouTube channel. We'll get into some more sound coming up in hour number 2 at about 2:15, 30 minutes from now. When we come back, we'll stay on LSU baseball. Some folks, as a result of this interview that Michael Cauble did with Jay Johnson, and then some social media happenings, are coming up with a conspiracy theory. I will dive into said conspiracy theory when we come back to close out the hour.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about the Highland Insurance Group. Jonathan Carbo is awesome over at the Highland Insurance Group. He and his team are experts when it comes to property and casualty insurance. It is storm season. It is time to make sure your insurance program is ready for storm season. Because I promise you this, if you have a policy that is not prepared for storm season, that is just the bargain basement deal that you could find at premium time. If there's a storm in the Gulf and you look at your policy and say, I might need to change some things, they will not. There will be a moratorium put on your coverage, and you got what you got. Change it now. Make sure your building is valuated property. Make sure that your business interruption limits reflect your revenues and your expenses so that you can continue to get that revenue and manage those expenses if you can't work. Make sure you don't have co-insurance penalties that are going to be looming. Make sure your deductible fits your risk appetite. All these things are vital as storm season is upon us. So if you haven't considered those things in your insurance program and just know what it costs, then contact Jonathan Carbo and the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at highlandig.com. They can help you out this storm season in South Louisiana. It's the Highland Insurance Group, online at highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC brings you Hunt Palmer Show each and every day. FabryChevrolet.com is the website. That's FabryChevrolet.com. The entire inventory is online right there at FabryChevrolet.com. So you can search whatever you're looking for, make and model. You can sort that way. You can sort by price. You can sort by mileage. You can sort by new, sort by pre-owned. No matter what you're looking for, they've got it at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. The Fabry family's been at this for 35 years in Baton Rouge. They've got a great reputation for a reason. It's because they take care of their customers. So if you're looking for a wonderful buying experience, service after the sale, and a great deal, Fabry Chevrolet GMC is where you need to be. Take that short drive up Highway 61 in St. Francisville and go say hey. You'll get a great customer experience, as I mentioned, and you'll get a great new ride. If you're looking for that new road trip that's going to be coming up here in the next couple of weeks, need a new ride for that, Fabry Chevrolet GMC is happy to help you. Check out that inventory online at FabryChevrolet.com. We've been playing the quotes from Michael Cauble's sit down with Jay Johnson, and we'll do a little bit more of that coming up in 20 minutes. But one of the moments in that interview, Cauble says, we know Stephen Milam is not going to come back, so you've got to get a shortstop, and you got Dawson Park, you need more infielders. And when he says that, the internet has jumped on Jay Johnson's expression when Cauble says it. I will be honest with you. I'm here to be honest. I'm always honest with you. I didn't notice some sort of facial expression that really caught my eye. I went back and watched it twice. He nodded at one point, saying like, yeah, he's not coming back. So I don't know that I'm like way in on this internet conspiracy theory, but there are some that think Jay Johnson made a face like, you sure about that? And then to add to that, Stephen Milam took that screenshot of Jay Johnson's face making that expression and made it his Instagram profile picture. So the internet sleuths are out in full force for this conspiracy theory that, hey, Cauble said Milam's not coming back. Jay Johnson raised his eyebrow. Stephen Milam took the time to go screenshot the eyebrow raise, made it his Instagram profile picture. Milam's back, I'm telling you. And I'm sitting here going, okay, I appreciate the effort by Stephen Milam. And let me tell you, I would love to have the guy back because you could have, he hit right at 300 again this year, just as he did last year and just as he did basically the year before. He's been just over a 300 career hitter at LSU over 3 seasons. He could hit 260 playing the defense he does at shortstop, and I'd have him out there with bells on. I love it. You can do that at 3 positions in college baseball. You can have a 240, 3 home run dude play catcher, shortstop, and center field because they save a lot of runs. Catchers save multiple, half a dozen to a dozen pitches a game. Shortstops in college baseball boot balls on the regular. If yours doesn't, that's a huge deal throughout the course of 56 games. A lot of outs you're saving. And then center fielders run down gappers and save runs daily. So Milam coming back would be massive. And I have said from the beginning, I don't think he's coming back, but it's certainly a possibility. I don't believe Stephen Milam's going to make a ton of cash. Jay Johnson has thrown out the $2 million thing for Stephen Milam. I don't see anybody giving Stephen Milam $2 million. I think he has to decide if he wants to play another year of LSU baseball, make some NIL cash, and sign for 6 figures less next year in major league terms, a year later in his clock, or if he wants to just go start his journey. And I don't know the answer to that, but I will tell you that I think the door is open for a return. I just would not bet on it. It's open. I just would not bet on it. It would be huge for LSU. You could play Milam and Park in the middle infield, and I don't know if you can move Dawson Park over to second base. Who knows what that conversation was like, but it would be huge for this LSU baseball team. We'll talk College World Series coming up in 5 minutes. Sports Center next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Speaking of baseball, we've talked a lot about it. Marucci, right in the middle of all of it. Step into the heart of the game, and that's Marucci, the official bat of Major League Baseball. They offer tours at the facility. You can see where the official bat of Major League Baseball is made. They make 1,200 of them every single day. You're looking to get the kiddos out of the house, got a youth baseball team that just finished up its season, or a youth softball team that just finished up its season. You want to treat them, young boys, young girls, to a cool afternoon learning about the official bat of Major League Baseball, seeing how those bats are made and shipped off to the best players in the world. Book a tour, maruccisports.com/campus-tours. You can do it. And every single tour that you book at Marucci comes with a discount in the Hitter's House and the Campus Tour store. It's a great spot to get on by, learn the story of Marucci, how they went from a backyard shed to the official bat of Major League Baseball, and see where they make all those bats. This is all courtesy of our friends over at Marucci.